Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year to you all. I hope that you all survived 2023 and are looking forward to kicking butt in 2024, or at the very least surviving another year, which is what I'm trying to do. The dogs are still as energetic and neurotic as always. I'm not sure they've ever had a bad day other than when it thunderstorms, and there wasn't very many thunderstorms last year, so it was a good one for them. Our chicken ladies are approaching 15 weeks old. My wife thinks they may start laying eggs here soon, even though it's winter, because it's their first cycle. They could actually produce while it's cold outside. Chickens seem to be pretty resilient animals. They haven't died yet, so we're doing all right. Anyways, 2024, we're finally getting an opportunity to move some of our old crop grain off the farm. We're starting with soybeans because Jeff and I don't want to be in the same predicament we were last summer, where we had a few soybean bins kind of go off grade on us. We're getting started early and we're gonna run hard. Okay, leaving home, driving to work. Oh, we're at work now, perfect. It is a little on the chilly side this morning. Low 20s for temperature. Got my wool socks on, snakeskin underwear. Shouldn't really have to worry too much about the elements. One small upgrade we're looking to make this off season is have a sparge tube installed in both compartments of our chemical tanker. The place I talked to in Arcola, Bulk Tech I believe is what they're called, thought they could get me in here sometime early January. That'll really help improve our agitation, which seemed to be a little bit of an issue when we were spraying our corn post products that atrazine in them. Atrazine's just kind of a troublesome chemistry. It looks like latex paint in there and it has a tendency to settle out. Your chemicals are settling out of solution, you're losing some of that chemical load per acre, and you may end up with some being a little too strong and others being a little too weak. There's quite a bit of room for error on atrazine in terms of potency when it comes to over applying, but on the under applying, we don't want to be shorting ourselves of atrazine because it really helps make that Callisto work in that post-corn chemistry solution, compound, mixture, whatever. The tanker commentary was useless information. I'm actually here for the backhoe conveyor. Why don't we divide and conquer this morning? I'll open this door and then go sit in my truck and get warm. You guys grease the backhoe while it's sitting here. Seems like a fair deal, doesn't it? Need to get a barn cat in here. Look at all this bird poop on this thing.
Good. What's that? He had something doing. I can't remember what it was this morning.
He's been sitting at the farm every morning for the last month with nothing to do, and the day we start working, he's busy.
You tell him.
That's all right.
You tell him. You gotta tell me. Hard's caught on this side.
Okay, conveyor is set. We're gonna go get the trucks and start hauling some beans. Hopefully the bin's not plugged up. Shouldn't be, because everything we cut was clean and dry, but you never know what kind of bad luck you're gonna have to start the new year. Hopefully Jeff ate his corned beef and cabbage, because I didn't. We may need a little luck this year. Oil was good on mine. Coolant was a little bit low, of course. Down the road to load up some beans. My New Year's resolution was to not get grease everywhere when I greased equipment in 2024, and I made it a whole couple of days before I broke that one. grease all over my gloves, my clothes, and I managed to rip out the greaser in one of the wheel bearings, which is what I get for greasing those. I was just trying to be generous with the grease. Looking to grease the top bearings, but I'm gonna wait until I fill the truck. So I want to do those while it's running, and I need something to stand on while I'm doing it. Ah, jeez. You guys are the worst. The laundry lady's gonna hate me. Look at all this grease. That's why we can't have nice things. We got a nice, easy drive about 7-8 miles to the south. All downhill loaded. That's what you want. We are at good old TGM and Yoga. We're offering some free delayed pricing on soybeans, so gives us an opportunity to get some beans out of our bins and into their storage. They're supposed to be having some mega expansion here if the city of Neoga ever allows it. It's always the city slowing down progress. I don't know why. There's the first load, 813 dry bushels at 11.6% moisture. Don't think we had to worry about the top of that bin going bad. The weather's somewhat friendly other than maybe being a little bit chilly, so might as well keep the hammer down. Adding a sprayer to our operation last year has shifted my perspective about grain hauling. Usually, because we're having everything custom done, it was, okay, well, we can haul grain when we want to in the winter, and then, you know, if we get busy in the spring, well, we can haul grain in the summer. Now I'm thinking, okay, I may be in a sprayer this summer, and if I get opportunities to do my own custom work for people, that extends that window, which is profitable, but time-consuming. I'm kind of in the mindset now where if we've got the opportunity to haul in the winter, we might as well haul as much as reasonably possible, because we don't want to be crammed and jammed for time come spring. So I'm gonna haul whenever I can, barring, you know, if there's something that comes up, whether it be helping my wife at home or Lenny's got a dentist appointment tomorrow, I'm gonna go help with those things. But other than that, I'm not just gonna ride around and look at fields all the time. I'm gonna try to actually make progress on our farm day by day, and the main thing in the winter in regards to that is hauling grain, because we got quite a bit of storage, gotta move the bushels out sometime. Hasn't been the quickest start for us getting both trucks running. It is the first we've hauled any of our old crop 2023 out in 2024, and we're just not the fastest people in general. Loading the trucks at the bins can only be done so fast, and there are a handful of other farmers around hauling down to TGM and Neoga to take advantage of their delayed pricing deal right now, so just kind of slow all the way around. That's okay. Some progress is better than no progress. Just to give you a quick update on the grain markets in general, corn and beans to be specific. Soybeans and corn have both just kind of stayed within a pretty tight range to maybe slightly downward. Prices aren't really that inspiring right now, which is why it takes deals like this to get farmers to move some of their grain out of storage to commercial elevators and end users. Soybeans right now, if you wanted to sell them cash over the scales, I believe are kind of in that $12.50 cash range. Corn, probably $4.50. I actually haven't looked, maybe $4.40. It's really not that great. A lot of people would say that they'd rather pay higher input prices like we did last year or the year before and get $1 or $2 more per bushel on corn and $2 to $4 more per bushel on soybeans, as opposed to getting cheap prices like we're locking in right now for 2024 inputs, and then also getting reduced grain prices for our output. So there's a give and a take there. It looks like right now on paper for 2024, corn is looking to be slightly more profitable. Typically it does have an edge over soybeans. Let's just say that we had 75 bushel beans across the farm. I think our average was slightly lower than that. You take $12.50 times that, you're gonna be $950 an acre gross, minus $350, maybe $400 an acre, everything in except for land costs. So there's $600 an acre gross profit, not including land cost. And that's where the difference between some farms kind of comes. If you're cash ridden ground for $500 an acre, well, there's $100 an acre profit. If you own ground and you don't owe any money on it, well, $600 an acre profit minus your property taxes. A lot of variation there, but not quite as exhilarating as the $1,200 grosses we saw on soybeans as last year, the year before, and the $1,500+ an acre corn total. So markets have come down, inputs have come down. I think just overall, the farm economy is going to slow down just because interest rates are high, grain prices are down. It's that simple. And of course, you've got South America, Brazil, Argentina, all of those countries down there absolutely lapping the United States in terms of production quantities. Their yields on soybeans are actually pretty much neck and neck with ours, maybe slightly below on average, yet they have so many more acres to put into production. Some say their cost of production is cheaper. I don't really know the hard numbers for those guys, but they are even more at the mercy of Mother Nature than we are. Supposedly, over the last month or 2 months, maybe 3 months, as their soybeans have been growing down there, they've faced some pretty inclement weather, very dry, also extremely hot. It is a rainforest, yet there's enough ground down there and enough variation that they are still going to produce a pretty darn big crop. So I think it is going to keep pressuring the markets to stay at least range bound, if not downward. It's not very fun to talk about the years where things are just kind of average. We always like high yields, high prices, but farming is cyclical like many businesses. We usually have a couple good years that are just grand slams like we've had the last few years in terms of net profit. And then on the backside of that, we might have 5 to 10 years at least of years where profit is reasonable, just not crazy. So you got to kind of plan for the long term on the farm. It's not just spend all your money up front. It's like, how can we manage our finances to better fit the future if profits aren't as large as they are when we're making those purchases? So we don't want to overspend, but we also want to be cognizant of things we can do to improve the bottom line of our operation and our efficiency as a whole. A question I get almost every year is, what kind of upgrades are we planning on for the next season? Obviously, you guys have already seen the new planter tractor that my dad's going to be operating next spring if his shoulder allows. He has been talking a fairly large game about replacing our semi-fleet with some newer Kenworths. Sometimes he talks a lot and does very little. Other times he actually follows through, and that's not a degradation of his character by any means. I'm just saying sometimes, you know, you spitball a lot of ideas and some don't stick, but he's been pretty gung-ho on wanting to trade semis for the last few years into some newer stuff. Unfortunately, trucks are expensive and newer models also have diesel exhaust fluid, which is kind of a detriment to that decision. Wouldn't be surprised though if there aren't some new Kenworths on the farm here in the next few years. It's day 2 of hauling soybeans. Got about 10 to 11 loads out of the bin yesterday, which is more than a third at the rate we're hauling per load, which is a good start. Should have this knocked out in less than 3 days. Once we get down to about 4,000 or 5,000 bushels, depending on how the beans pile in the bin, I have to get in there and turn on the power sweep. Progress has slowed a little bit. I think we have some bean holes, or the dry pods that cracked open, plugging up one of the center sumps. As you can very clearly see on this chilly morning, I had to crack the side sump, which technically you're not supposed to open the sides until the center stops running, but really a bin this size, if you get a ring or two down, I don't think you're going to compromise the structural integrity of the bin while opening a side, as long as you got the cone off the top. That's what I did. Still not running full speed. Beans are 10 to 11%, so dryness is not an issue on the beans themselves. That foreign material though, those pods you have in there, because we cut some wet beans that weren't ready to let go of their pods all the way, those kind of cause issues when it comes to empty the bin. Farmers who are watching this that have ever stored soybeans know what I'm talking about. Those pods, which are such a insignificant nemesis, somehow always plug the bin up. I have seen they make a device that you can set over your sumps. It's like kind of a pyramid with bars to help keep some of that stuff either blocked up, or it cuts it up enough as it comes down to not plug the hole. It's going to slow us down a little bit because their sumps are not running full speed. Quality seems to be all right. There's a spot or two against the walls that don't look good. Maybe we just put in a load of beans that were too wet. They're higher up. They don't get enough airflow. Possibly we don't have a big enough CFM fan. We're not moving enough air to reach the entirety of the bin. Although I've hauled loads from 8 to 11, maybe 12%. So you wouldn't think they've gone bad, but here we are. You can see where we pulled the drain down, about a ring and a half down all the way around, and then the side stump here is pulling that little V down. Probably getting close to 45% done with the bin. It'd be a lot faster if it was moving full speed right now. That's what what I get for talking about it. Hole's plugged up again. Just gonna go slam the slide open and close. That's really the best I can do. Could turn the fan on, but not sure that's really gonna do much in the short term. We've had a very interesting development. I'm going to try to explain to you all without cursing because I'm feeling a little vulgar right now, but kids don't want to hear that. YouTube doesn't want to hear that, so we'll try to keep that to a minimum. Working words will be said off camera, just so you know. In the process of mangling it back and forth, trying to maybe nudge any kind of debris covering the sump loose, someone, and it may or may not be the person holding the camera right now, broke the center sump. The bin wasn't running anyway, so it's not like it was a major loss, although typically the only way to fix the sump rod and pin that's probably broken is to maybe pull the floor. It pretty much leaves us SOL for trying to unload out the center sump, assuming it's broken closed. I'm optimistic that it's broken open, so it's open but just plugged, and the outside sump is also plugged, and it's not willing to run. You can see all the holes we have. I mean, we're just running a ton of them through right now. I don't know why in particular it's an issue, but it seems to be still. It was last year as well. Herein lies the issue. You need your sumps to empty the bin effectively. The exit strategy, if the sumps do not work, other than just cutting a hole in the side of the bin, which is not on the list for us today, is to use this little cover right here that is not very big, is not going to move grain very fast, and really is also a last-ditch option. It's a little after 9. This has been an ordeal here for an hour already, just trying to get that open. And I got to go to a dentist appointment with my son at 9:40 just to help with the kids. And that is a whole nother situation in and of itself in a more fun way than this. And I turned the fan on. Chris, Jeff, and I are just going to leave it running for 2-3 hours maybe and come back after noon. And hopefully by the grace of the good Lord himself, the movement of air from the fan has broken anything loose and this runs. If this doesn't run, then probably going out the door, which is not ideal. We are 2 rings down. Structurally shouldn't be an issue. I talked to Dwight at York Bin Co. He's our bin expert. He built a lot of these bins, or not a lot of these, a lot of our newer bins he built. I'm not going to say specifically these. He said that a 7-ring, 36-foot bin, if it's 2 rings down, probably not a structural risk to pull out the door, but he told me to keep an eye on the top of the door. If it starts to suck in, you're done. You just got to stop. Shouldn't be an issue, but that's what we're going to do. Hopefully the fan fixes it. After dinner, we'll come back and check, or who knows. Just one of those days. That's what we get for working. New Year's off to a bad start. I already messed up with the grease. Now our bin's plugged. Before I disappear for a little bit, I do want to actually talk about one thing, and this is grain bin safety. I believe that it's safe to get in a grain bin so long as you know the environment you're working in. Now last year we had some issues with this plugging. However, it was not really plugging until it got to the floor. So the beans weren't this high, they were all the way to the ground, meaning that there was a sturdy floor underneath me where I couldn't get engulfed in the grain if it came down. This year is a little bit more problematic because the lowest point in the bin that's exposed is 2 rings above the door. Let's just say that I'm 2 rings tall, so we are 4 rings above the door, meaning if I went in there and had something long enough to try and unplug the bin, I very easily could get sucked down and get entrapped, and you guys have heard the stories about that. You could counteract that by getting strapped in there with a safety harness, although I just do not see that being worth the risk at all. It's all about picking and choosing the safe time to get in a grain bin. If the level of grain in your bin is still almost halfway up, not a good time to get in. It's not safe. You don't know what's underneath you, and the floor is a long way down. Last year, the bin didn't stop running until it was closer to the ground, so I felt pretty safe about climbing in the ladder, getting in there, because statistically, it was highly unlikely that I could end up in a situation where I got entrapped, hurt, or even perished because of that poor decision. This year, like you can see right here from this example, prime visualization for you all, that's not a good time to get in a bin. A lot can go wrong. If there's still pods stuck up on the walls, they can fall on you. I mean, there's nowhere to run. It's only a losing scenario here. I'd rather make a mess pulling it out the door than risk my life or someone else's life trying to get in here and unplug it. It's just not worth it. It really is amazing with storing soybeans that you can have issue with 10 to 11% beans. It's a losing battle, it seems like. I think we may just start storing corn and haul all the beans to the elevator. I'm having a pretty bad day, but the dogs, they never have a bad day, do you guys? They do stink. Bad days though? No, none of those. Okay, dentist appointment is over. That's probably gonna be the highlight of the day. It's always cool seeing the kids grow up, and Lenny did great. Now we get to go open this can of worms here at the soybean bed. Feels like a Monday, but it's not a Monday. Monday was the new year. Today is same old, same old.
Get back. Well,
Probably have to go out about a foot.
help him lift. I just have to go out easy.
No, you don't need, I don't need help lifting.
Go ahead and turn it on.
Turn it on, guys.
Make sure you don't get any.
We've made some progress. I cut the hole out a little bit, but it's still going to take a truck really long to load at this speed. I mean, it takes an hour to get a full load, if not 2 hours. So Dad's actually going to go get me a piece of plywood. I got his executive authorization to widen the hole. We're just going to cut that out completely and get a piece of plywood to slide in behind that, just to ensure that we can shut it when we're done loading. Just backing in, we cut that hole pretty large. It just was not moving fast enough without being cut. I don't know if we'll cut it anymore, but that's how we're stopping it with that piece of plywood. Usually you can stop grain pretty easy unless it's a big hole. We'll keep an eye on the bin and probably pull another 4 or 5 loads out this door, and should be able to get her popped open and kind of address the issues inside, hopefully. Nothing quite screams safety like not putting your eyewear on till after you did most of the sawzawing. Once I broke out the cutout saw, I was like, yeah, probably ought to put this on so I don't catch something in the eye. Needless to say, I'm unusually happy to finally get to go to the elevator today. Only took 6 hours. There's a lot going on here today. A lot of bean trucks coming in. It looks like they're doing some facility maintenance. Got the big lift truck up. As is tradition, we found ourselves in a line. Not really the elevator's fault. A lot of guys wanting to haul beans in on the free delayed pricing, and they have every right to do so. Dumping us on the slow side because of that maintenance you just saw on the newer side, which just means the trucks can't really get emptied that fast, and sometimes you gotta wait. That's all right. We've done enough self-sabotage in this bin emptying process. Leave it to us to turn a very easy 3-day project into probably a 4 or 5 day project when it's all said and done. Yeah. I don't want to hear it, everyone. I am the king of disappointing results. Don't even have to ask me. Ask my wife. The main issue with storing soybeans is that most of the beans, like I said, are dry, but in the process of the auger and the spreader distributing everything into the bin, a lot of the pods, or that material in there, the plant matter that doesn't get separated from the beans, ends up on the outside of the bin. It's just a gravitational thing. And when they get against the outside of the bin, they're exposed to the warmest area of the bin, which is the bin wall. Doesn't get as good of airflow, and it naturally comes in with more moisture than the actual grain itself, resulting in a scenario where you either have sticky pods against the walls that plug things up, and if it's warm enough for long enough, you can also get some rotting, which is something we deal with in our soybean bins. Last year was really bad. We thought it was a combine issue, but it looks like, based on what I'm seeing right now, maybe we need to change our combine settings a little bit to keep some pods out, or our spreader's not doing a good enough job. I don't know. But most of the beans look really good, and then you'll get a spot or two that don't look that great. Woo-wee! It's another chilly one here in central Illinois. Happy to see that. We want this ground to get as many freeze and thaws as possible. It's good for the soil. Kind of resets it in a way. Speaking of resetting things, happy to report that we have this situation in the bin about 50 to 60% under control. We ran as much as possible out the door through our makeshift hole that you saw us cut the other day. got the sumps unplugged, or not all of them, that's why we're only 50% under control. Once it was low enough that we could pop the doors open, I crawled in. I got one of these exterior sumps open on the outside. That took a while to fish it out and keep it going. You can see all the pods we have in the bin, just not good quality control on our part when we were storing. Then I worked my way into the next intermediary sump over the course of yesterday. I've got a third one open, and we're just gonna find our way to the middle and hopefully get this thing running all the way. Like I mentioned, someone, the person holding the camera possibly, broke the slide control to the middle. So we're really hoping that it's broken in an open position and not broken in a closed position. Because if it's open, all we gotta do is unplug whatever's clogging it and run the rest out. Just a ton of pods in here, specifically in the top 2 rings of the bin. Once we got below that, it was all really good beans, just like an inch or 2 of wet or even rotten material that we had to fish out as we were loading the trucks. That stuff comes down, plugs the sumps, and then you end up in this situation. Anyways, it's cold. I'm gonna get warm, get the trucks warm, and we're gonna get started with the day. My Uncle Jeff taught me this idea of using PVC to unplug the sump, because when you stick the PVC down, if you hit the outlogger while it's running, it'll just shear a little piece of PVC off. This is probably 3 foot right now. Started at 6 foot yesterday, so every time I go in there, if I go too far, it just grabs a tiny little piece of PVC off, and I can definitely feel it up top that I've hit the auger, which is a good sign, because that's what we're trying to do. There's where we started. Got that one yesterday, and we're kind of working our way. That's the 4th one right there. The next one should be the center sump, assuming it's open. If it's open, we're going to be very lucky. I don't know if it is or not. We'll have to find out. When I talked about grain bin safety the other day, about deciding when we want to get in a bin and when we don't, here's an opportunity where as long as you don't step in the wrong spot, you should be safe, because I'm on ground level. It can't really suck me down unless I step in one of the sump holes. If I went in here when the grain was 6 foot off the ground and started plugging away and accidentally caught or successfully caught one of the sumps and opened it up, what could happen is I could get sucked down with the grain, and you can't really tell, but it's not like water. It will actually pull you down if it gets the opportunity to. So this is a pretty safe time to get in here, as long as you know you're close to ground level. Other times when the grain's higher, especially if you've got some bridging somewhere, that's where you can really get the Trojan horse effect. Think everything's all right, it caves in on you. Worst case scenario, you die. Best case scenario, they gotta cut open the bin to get you. Jeff and I are both loaded. I'd say there's probably 4,000 bushel of beans in the bin. I'm not exactly sure. I would guesstimate that the next load is where we'll find out whether or not the center hole is closed or open. And what we do after that is Pandora's box. We'll see. Nice and frosty this morning. Kind of like a winter wonderland, except for it does not feel wonderful at all. They're busy doing their maintenance here in Neoga. I talked to one of the employees, and he said that soybeans in particular wear out their leg equipment very quickly because they're so abrasive. And some of these tubes, if they're on a soybean leg, may only last a year or a year and a half if they got a lot of bushels through them, because the soybeans just eat through them. They patch them, and then eventually every year and a half, 2 years maybe, they got to come in and completely overhaul the leg, which sounds like a lot of money, so they must be making a little bit of money off of us to pay for that. Dumped our 10% soybeans off at the elevator. Now it's time to find out whether or not the center hole is open or closed, and that will determine whether or not we finish this project today, I would bet. Here's my report from the battlefield. We were able to load an entire truck off of gravity still, and I also started scooping. I found the end of the sweep auger, which is where the center sump is. I've probed around, and much to my dismay, it does appear currently, although I've not fully uncovered it, that it is closed. So I'm gonna have to scoop some more as we load the next truck. And then if I get it down low enough to where the sides stop caving in, soybeans usually will pile up pretty high, I'll have them shut the out auger off. I'll grab my little pry bar here and see if I can find the lip of the slide and crank her open. Might be a little more work than I was hoping to do. Sometimes that's just part of work and you gotta work. You know, pretty intuitive statement right there. You guys get what I'm saying. I'm confident that we're gonna get it sorted out this load. It's just a matter of how we sort it out. Jeff and I called an audible. We're gonna put this little mini sweep auger in here and just auger as many beans away as we can. And once it's definitively stopped moving, as in the gravity flow that keeps covering the hole up, we might be able to pry it open when we can see it, and then we'll go from there. Ladies and gentlemen, after a relentless hour of work here, we finally got it. I don't know if my camera battery died, so you may or may not have seen it. I don't know that I've ever been this happy to see a hole.
Okay, ready? Want to try it?
Sure. Just when you think you have it made, you're on easy street for the rest of the bin, something else goes wrong. This one's not as surprising. The power sweep, which is driven off of the out auger through a system of gearboxes and then a lever and a crown and some teeth. It's hard to explain. I might show it to you when we go to fix it. Did not want to engage. Of course, it's broken, I think. Something we have dealt with in the past, especially on a bean bin, because beans are just harder on augers. They don't flow as well. They pull harder. Just a lot of different issues that cause wear and tear on your power sweeps. Basically, we're going to have to just do an extension of the previous project because there's a panel that covers the gearbox farther on from the sump directly attached to it. The small sweep's already in there, so we saved ourselves half the work. It's like it was meant to be at this point. We got to clear that out some more so we can open up the gearbox without beans getting in it. And we got to fix what I'm presuming are the bolt heads that the drive crown attached to. It's a strange system, but that's where we're at now. I thought we were going to get this bin done today, and what turned from a 3-day project into a 4-day project is now a 5-day project. It's Friday. It's quitting time. We don't like to leave the trucks loaded overnight. I was going to load my truck and get it back to the elevator, but because we don't load trucks overnight on the weekend, I guess not during the week, we're just going to leave it as it is and check it out at the beginning of next week. So one of those projects, you know, you start the new year, you hope everything's going to go smoothly, and then you're immediately greeted with disaster or problems. I don't, disaster is a little bit dramatic, just issues. Not everything's going smoothly, so it makes you appreciate when things work perfectly the first time, doesn't it? I can already see the comments now. They happen all the time. Why don't we have a vac? I kind of wish we did have a vac. It would have saved a lot of legwork on my end, multiple points in this video trying to make this function properly. The problem is that metaphorically and literally we have all of our eggs in one basket, or financially, I guess would be the best way to put that. That we've invested so much in power sweeps, integrated power sweeps in these bins and some of our newer bins elsewhere, that it's just kind of silly to go buy a vac too, because I don't know what a vac costs, but surely it's 50 grand. Power sweep in a 36-foot plus bin, you're looking at probably $15,000 a piece in current day to install them. So we've just got so much invested, it seems silly to also buy a vac, although it would be nice to have because we have issues like this. We'll see what happens in the future. I'll definitely keep you guys updated as we go. 2023 may be behind us, but I am still putting together all of my data from last harvest so we can kind of talk about our performance on farms, trials we did. So don't think I forgot about that. I'm going to take off though. As always, everyone, I greatly appreciate every single one of you continuing to tune in and support the channel. Your viewership means the world to me. Catch you all on the next episode. Till then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!